there's so much humor, and there's, you know, like love and sex, and there's a lot going on in the movie. And there's drama, and there's like a different emotions. And I think music can be so good at just saying, this is the thing that you should be focusing on.
Hey there, it's Kristen, and today we are chatting with Shiva Baby writer and director Emma Seligman. Where did the inspiration for Shiva Baby come from, and were you able to bring your own experiences into the story, and how did that kind of influence it?
Yeah, definitely. I only wanted to write something that would sort of be somewhat authentic to me, because I was writing it in school, and I just wanted to make sure that my senior thesis was achievable, and that I didn't try to do like a million locations. I just wanted to focus on character and story, and also budget, a small budget. So yeah, I just wanted to draw off my experiences in my family, but also like my sexual insecurities. And I think that, you know, writing Jewish characters, at least from my specific Jewish background, comes easier to me than writing any other kind of person. So it was no question going to be at a Jewish event. And then also, yeah, I think there were just a million sugar babies at my school, and sexual power dynamics was something that I feel like me and all my friends were, you know, encountering and having difficulties with as young women. So yeah, that's where the inspiration came in. So I definitely inserted a lot of what I was feeling into it. Yeah.
You mentioned the sugar babies, and I think a lot of your work has kind of focused on the relationships between women and sex. And I was wondering if you could just kind of, talk a little bit more about that and what draws you to that.
We've been sort of dealt an unfair card when it comes to how we understand sex for ourselves, and also how we project that to the rest of the world. I think, I don't want to speak, you know, in generalizations, but I think that women are often having to battle, you know, their version of themselves, like our deep down, versus the sexual version of ourselves to the world, versus like what we want sexually versus what we feel like we need to hide from, you know, our family or our parents. I feel like, you know, the world is just screaming at women to be so many different things. And I think a lot of that has to do with sex, and either having, you know, being independent and owning it, or like, you know, hiding it and, you know, being a good girl or whatever it is. So, you know, we live in a world with so much sex all over the place in our media, in porn, etc. And I just, I think it's something that's impossible. It's impossible for us not to think about in some way. So I think that, you know, every woman's got a messy sex life, or a sex life, or just is thinking about sex in some way. So I just feel like there's a lot to tell stories from when it comes to that.
Something else I really loved about this project was the music. You know, the soundtrack, it really heightens it. It kind of gives a little bit of like a horror feel at times, like you just feel that urgency. Could you talk about what it was like bringing that, the soundtrack into the film?
I didn't picture having music in the movie at first, because I didn't have it with the score, and music is not my specialty. But when we were shooting it, I felt like it became clear that I wanted something else to be showcasing, that what we should be focusing on is Danielle's anxiety. You know, there's so much humor, and there's, you know, like love and sex, and there's a lot going on in the movie. And there's drama, and there's like a different emotions. And I think music can be so good at just saying, this is the thing you should be focusing on. And we could have so easily had music that highlighted the comedy or highlighted the drama, etc. But I wanted something to just really make sure that we're trying to focus on Danielle's undercurrent, just because we don't really get moments where she's by herself, or where she's honestly speaking to other people and being like, I'm anxious. Today is a very anxious experience. So I worked with the incredible Ariel Marks, and she showed me, you know, a range of violin sounds, because I knew I wanted something string-based to be reflective of like Yiddish klezmer music. And then based off the sounds that she showed me, I just picked a bunch, and then she told me that what I wanted was a horror score, essentially. So we just went ahead with that, basically.
How did this cast come together? And, you know, what was it like directing them?
I feel so lucky that Rachel stayed on from the short to feature. I met her in school, and she was in the short film. And when we went ahead with the feature, she was so invested in seeing it get made, and would give me notes on the script, and be accountable for me, or hold me accountable for, you know, all my goals, and trying to make the feature, because it was difficult and challenging, because we made it on our own. But so, you know, she was going to stay in it no matter what, but at the time she was relatively unknown. And I think she is well known, but through her comedy and through her Twitter and Instagram and stuff. So less in that like acting community. So we brought on an incredible casting director, Kate Geller, who was incredibly strategic and smart about how we cast, and, you know, the kinds of people we should be going out to. And we had a very, very small budget. So it had to be, everyone had to be New York based because we couldn't really afford to fly anyone out or put them up. We also, you know, couldn't afford to really drive people to set. So, you know, she was incredible. Everyone that we offered to said yes. Everyone that's in this movie that we offered, you know, was offered, and then they said yes. So other than the small characters, you know, some of them we auditioned. But it was incredible working with this cast. I'm still pinching myself that I got the chance to. They all are so wonderful and kind and caring, and they were working in a very sweaty, hot house they were bumping up against every crew member, and everyone was in each other's way constantly. And for most of them, I think it was the smallest budget they've ever worked on. So they could have been divas, and they weren't at all. And they were so lovely and offered their support because they knew it was my first film. But they all are also so different, and they have totally different needs and ways of wanting to be communicated with as an actor. I think, you know, Fred Malamet is a very theater trained actor, and he needs every single word to be exactly as written. Otherwise his line is thrown off, like in terms of his cues. Molly Gordon doesn't say the same line twice. I don't think she understands like truly how to, like, you know, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but she doesn't really memorize in the proper way because she just wants to always make it her own and make it feel so natural for her. And she does not like sort of the like heady directing that I think some actors do, where they're like, this is where you're coming from, and this is what you're feeling. She was just like, am I angry or am I happy? And I just sort of had to work with it because I feel like film school trained me to be like, to not direct that way. So every actor is so amazing, but just was so different. Polly Draper improvised so much and was also, she's a director herself. So she would always be like, I don't think this would happen, and I think we should do this, and da 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 da. So it was incredible, but everyone was very different.
If you like this interview, you can check out more right over here, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.